Okay, cool. So, yeah, the reason for doing this is because I get emails like yours, Rosemary, for example, right? Emails, text messages, messages. What about this? What about that? What about the, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, fine. And then there is a group of us with Michelle and her cat. We meet every day. I don't know how long we've been doing that now, for a month and a half, maybe, or
Wow.
so. I don't know, a while. Because when I stopped doing messages like every week on Saturdays, I thought it was going to be a 2 week break, but as we all know, it turned into like 6 months. But what happened is I had started to do investing on the quantum system within the stellar world. And somebody reached out to me and said, oh, did you open an account? And I said, yeah. And he said, yeah, I did too. And he said, well, maybe we should like help support each other out. Well, then that kind of snowballed, and there's like 7 or 8 of us now, I guess, that have been uh, learning and sharing the new system. And in the process of that, we also we could see what was going on in the world. We could see the financial system kind of lining up. And so the news became really important. So we started to share the news. There's Bill. Hey, Bill. Hey, nice to see you. So, it became really important. So in a very short period of time, we've connected and we've supported each other out with sources and interpretation and learning the new system. And I, I guess, that's why it's like, let's just gather together and debunk stuff. But what I'm going to do, I started this last week. When I was doing, well, I'm just going to show I'm going to play my sponsor message, because one of the things that we all know is health has probably become more relevant than ever before. And where we're going financially is we're transitioning out of a system that has been completely controlled and manipulated, debt-based, which is basically the whole thing is an illusion. And where we are transitioning to, and nobody knows the day or the hour that we're going to flip. We can see that it's going to be soon. And nobody knows how long it's going to take for us to transition. But ultimately, where we're heading is a world that has no monetary system at all, no money. And I say that with absolute confidence, because anytime you have a monetary system, you also end like there's checks and balances and various things. We're the only species that has to earn our living, so to speak. So where we are headed is an absolute paradigm shift in anything that we have ever known. So I'm going to play a video today, and then we're going to talk about it, because we have foundational core beliefs, and we have a certain way of viewing the world. And I'm not saying that I have the answers, because all the answers for sure, but I'm saying one of the best things that's happened, and Tina said it feels like it's been like 3 years of university for life, for sure. One of the things that we have recognized as being so important is that everything has to get filtered through a new lens. Because the sooner you can go, everything is a lie, like literally everything is a lie. And like, say that with me. Everything is a lie. Okay. And when you can actually just settle in your spirit that it's easier to start from that place and then rebuild, then it's also easier to hold everything lightly, so that you can believe everything and believe nothing and believe everything, believe nothing and believe everything all at the same time. Because then you're activating your critical thinker to connect more with your emotional, intuitive, spiritual self, and making the connection between your brain and your heart. Because we have, for 5,000 plus years, been conditioned as a species to strengthen our logical left brain linear mind. And we've done that with language and the alphabet and things that we would think are really, really important for evolution. But that evolution has taken us to this place that we've just about destroyed the planet, and where the entire planet has been enslaved by the elite that has the knowledge about how things really function. And we have been taught that what is good is evil and evil is good. And the example I gave in my email was the word occult. Everything is all about language, and language, everything is about vibrations, because we live in a world where everything is constantly moving. Everything is energy, emotions, energy and motion. I used the word occult. When you hear the word occult, what immediately comes to mind?
Negative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The word occult just means hidden knowledge.
Oh.
So somebody has hidden knowledge, and they have used that against us. And so many things that we live with are like good and evil, right? There's a polarity. But that's all because of how we have been taught and how we perceive things. And I'm not saying that, cannibalism and child sacrifice and, horrible murder and violence and all that stuff is good at all. But I'm saying that both exist simultaneously, and we have to be able to perceive the energetic vibrations in order to connect with who we are at our core. Like, we're not this, we think of ourselves as flesh and blood, and our flesh and blood needs healing. But at the core of that, it's who we are inside. Who are we really is what's important. So I'm going to play I'm going to call it my sponsor message, because one of the things that's happened in the last 6 months is I got way more plugged into health and cleansing and movement, like moving your body, just getting outside in the fresh air, all of those things that we kind of take for granted. We sit, we walk, but what about like lifting your arms up in the air? Like, your whole body language can change the energy flowing through your body. Your breath can change the energy flowing through your body. We got to learn how to breathe again. What's the first thing that happens when you're born? You take a breath. What's the last thing that happens before you die? You stop breathing. We don't know how to breathe. We just do it automatically. But there's this whole field of study on the healing power of breathing. So I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to play a video that I said we're going to use it to talk about looking at things from a different perspective, even when they might be in opposition to your core beliefs and the way you think the world is. And then we can tie that into our conversation about finances and stuff like that. Okay. So bear with me. I have to share my screen with the sound. And now you can see how many things I have open. Okay. So I shared this last time, and I'm going to share it again. It's a little video here. We call this nature's immune booster. It's called noni, Tahitian noni especially. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why I chose this particular product to showcase, because this is a way that you can support me and continuing to do this work, but it's just a way that you can support yourself. The noni fruit used to grow over the whole planet. And it has so many healing properties. There's a book on 101 things you can do with it. It then became very popular just in the the Pacific, the South Pacific. And if you look at the history of it, it's really quite fascinating, because it was almost like it was intentionally pushed over there, but the people kept cultivating it, and it has to do with the rich soil. And so the strongest, most powerful noni now grows in Tahiti. You can get noni from other places, but it has to do with the combination of the soil, even though it used to be prolific. So it's one of those things. There's a movement right now to make it illegal to have any kind of natural remedies. Have you heard that? Mm-hmm. Like, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. But we can say that it's absurd to make it entirely illegal, even though we know there's been a push to ban home gardens. It's not safe. We also know, and it doesn't take very much looking to see, that there was a massive propaganda move and a huge financial funding to fund medical schools as long as they taught the pharmaceutical chemical solution, because there's money in that, right? Yeah. And because there's power in how we connect with things that come from the earth. And it's top of mind for everybody. The other thing that I really like about the company that provides the Tahitian noni is they are a company that has survived they've escaped from the grips of BlackRock, is all I'm going to say about that. If you know BlackRock, or we can talk about BlackRock. And that alone is a very, very powerful story too. So it's just a couple minute video, but I'm going to introduce you to Tahitian noni. It's just a simple little thing, right? Oopsie, got to move my, oh, I hit no. I should have hit yes. Sorry. Yes. Okay.
Can you hear it? Turn down the volume. The earth is calling. Our greatest healer, source of noni, the original superfruit, overflowing with powerful antioxidants, adaptogens, and phytonutrients that protect us day in and day out with just one daily serving. Tahitian noni juice, nature's original immune booster.
I love that. I've got so many like really fun stories already with noni. So you can, if you're interested in more or you want to purchase some, all of my links are now at sampiercy.com. Oops, how did I get out of here? There we go. Okay. So the only person I don't know here is Carl. Carl, can you put your video on or say hi or, something? I said at the beginning that if we're going to have a conversation, it's just so much easier to do that. So it'd be nice to meet. So I'm going to introduce you to this video, but I still use my glasses. We have so many really cool tech is coming, but it's getting back to who we are, right? So what I think Tina might have shared this video. And then I found some, a write-up kind of describing it. And then yesterday, somebody else shared something. And because we are in this season that we call Christmas, the video that we're going to watch for 20 minutes is about Christmas. And I don't think there's too many people would disagree that Christmas has roots beyond the Joseph Mary baby born in the manger story, right? Does anybody not know about the pagan roots of Christmas? We just all we have to do is look at Santa Claus, for example. Now, one of the things about pagan is really interesting because in the Bible you hear about paganism. But paganism was applied to anything that was not Christian, which was not approved by the church. And that included satanic stuff. So some of the stuff that you can look at as it relates to the Christmas story has to do with the satanic roots, not very much fun. And when you start looking at language seriously, you find all kinds of really incredible things. So Santa, for example, is an anagram of Satan. And so there's a lot of stuff that you can find online about the satanic symbolism. Because the other thing that's really important when we're looking at things with a fresh perspective is to look at things from a symbolic perspective or metaphorically, as opposed to literally. We have been taught to look at everything tangibly with like that left brain, logical, what can you touch and feel materialistically, where everything kind of reduces down to the finest little particle. But what that does is it takes our eyes off of the infinite, and everything is reducing instead of everything expanding. And so we're starting to see things from an infinite possibility, because when everything breaks down to energy and it's always constantly moving, we're made up of 50 trillion cells. And all of those cells are really energy points that are constantly moving. So we are energetic beings. This piece of paper has energy. Everything around us has energy. So let me read you the introduction. The flesh temple has been preparing for the secretion of the sacred nectar, the Christ oil, to awaken the 33 vertebrae of the spine to our new earth chakra system. Chakra is an Eastern term for energy. And that translates into the Western medicine actually just calls it the energy points in our nervous system. The pineal gland, the milk, quote, Joseph, and pituitary gland, the honey, Mary, are releasing the milk and honey through the colostrum, the Santa Claus, into our chakra system, activating the new earth chakra system to fully function. You can see right away that there's some symbolic and some metaphorical terms being used here. As this completes down the 33 vertebrae to the tailbone, as cerebral spinal fluid into the root chakra, which is right at the lower, right at our butt, where the manger is, and the sacred nectar rests for 2.5 days. The rebirth then happens, returning the sacred nectar back up to the cerebellum, where the causal chakra is. So there's terms in here that are metaphorical, right? The Kundalini awakening is bringing us enlightenment through 5D Christ consciousness, delivering us from evil. A collective group that have been chosen through their acts of God are receiving this month's upgrade into this higher consciousness through this portal as the veils of separation dissipate and the pineal gland has been cleansed and healed enough for us to achieve this solar solstice upgrade into God consciousness. So I know right away that this is going to trigger, because it triggered me. It triggers the Christian in us. And that's part of why I want to talk about this. Because we have an entire culture that has thought a certain way, that has been taught a certain way. And the more you look, the more you realize that the Bible colleges and the worldwide educational system and all the political system and the financial system, they all came into being at the same time, and they all stem from the exact same source. That source was the iteration of various groups that trace back to the Khazarian mafia, which was originally in the land that we now know as the Ukraine. They rebranded a few times. They got kicked out of Europe. They did all kinds of things in that that whole Eastern Europe, Eastern Russia, like Siberia area, and Eastern Russia. They got kicked out of there many times, went underground, popped back up, went underground, popped back up again. They became the Jesuits. They became the political power of the Roman Empire, eventually rebranded as the Roman Catholic Church. And from there, connecting with the monarch, and for military, monarch did the finances and the politics. The Vatican was banking and religion, and essentially education, because religion is a mindset. The monarch is banking, real estate, land, all that maritime law. And then Washington, D.C. is military power. And what's important is to know the roles that those play, because everything is all up here, how we think. And if you don't know, I was very, very involved in the Christian church. I was a leader of a national pastors organization. And I cried out, I think I shared this last time, for revelation and a new understanding of who God was and who I was in God. And I got my answer in the first 5 words of the book of Revelation, because I went to language, because I was told that the word of God is sacred. And if it's so sacred, but I'm reading it in English, then it obviously had to go deeper. And I went into etymology, and etymology is the historical symbolic meaning of languages, of components of words, and of characters. And it tells this kind of stuff. I'm not saying that any of this is right, but I'm saying that this is where we get triggered, is where we can get healing. Because it's so much is in our mind. And so if we're going to talk about finances and stuff, we also have to realize who we are. And that's why I think it's important that I share more and more and more about the fact that where we are going is no money at all. We don't need it. Because when the World Economic Forum says you'll own nothing and be happy, it's kind of half true, because we will own everything. We won't need to accumulate and look after ourselves and go to earn, which is a dead word, our living, our life. These are super, super important things, because once you start to see it, then you can pick up on the lies. And when you pick up on a lie, the truth reveals itself. The truth is we are way more powerful, and that's why they've hidden it. And language has been their tool of programming. Right? Lots of us know about the difference in maritime law. We know about common law. We know potentially, I mean, hopefully you guys do if you've followed me for a while, common English and legal English, 2 different versions of the same language. They've used language to do all of their shenanigans, all of their corruption, all of their slavery. We are enslaved by pieces of paper and words. That's just weird when you think about it. But how much power does a word have? How much power does like a number on a screen have? Let me just finish this. Because so much of this we have been taught is horrible. Oh, this is New Age. Well, when you do a little bit of digging, you realize that the Jesus movement and the New Age movement were started at the same time. And I think last session I might have said that in the 1970s, there was a hit movie called The Age of Aquarius by the group called The Fifth Dimension. Well, the fifth dimension is a vibrational term. And the sun and the earth are shifting in their vibrations. It's an energy term. And so some of the stuff that we've been taught is bad is actually good, because the energy is shifting. And that means that we are higher vibrations. At a lower vibration, everything is dense and tight, more materialistic. At a higher vibration, it's loose and it's flowing and it's loving. And the higher vibrations are way more powerful than the dense, tight, negative ones. Right? We can all do that, right? You just sort of start flowing and you feel totally different than if you do this. You can't even breathe properly. So the energies are shifting. So let me finish this last sentence here. We are going through this with Earth's own process of her awakening and her 2.5 days of rebirth, which happens right after the solstice, with the birth of the sun corresponding to Orion's belt. Now, it's important to know that the word S-U-N and S-O-N throughout history have always been the same word. So this is the sun, S-U-N, corresponding with Orion's belt, the three kings, rising from the Southern Cross, the crux as in the crucifixion, on December 22nd, 23rd, and 24th to her rebirth, and then rise when the moon moves in Aquarius. We are in the age of Aquarius, according to that 26,000 year zodiac, the Hebrew Mazareth, it's called. There's still one in existence in Prague, I think, but even that's been twisted. That 26,000 year clock breaks down the cycles of the zodiac that are there in the stars. We've been taught that, oh, you don't need that, you don't need to know about that stuff, right? That's new agey, woo-woo stuff. Meanwhile, throughout all of antiquity, that's how the world functioned. That's how they navigated the oceans. That's how we got free energy. That's how we got all kinds of things. All the pyramids around the world are lined up with the stars. And if we go outside right now, we know that we have a brand new star. Wasn't there a year ago. It's called Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. Didn't exist a year or so ago, because things are moving, but it tells us what season we are in, which is so important because so many people are just spazzing out thinking that the World Economic Forum and all this, like the horrible political elite and all of this stuff that we see them, writing pieces of paper and enacting all these new laws, that's it, run for the hills. We're doomed. We're going to lose everything. Go outside and look at the stars, or go and check out the Schumann resonance, or look at the solar flares. Just look at how you feel. Like, we feel this, even though we don't necessarily know it, but this is the perspective. Okay, rebirth when the moon rises in Aquarius on December 25th. For the new age of Aquarius, we are collectively rising up with the enlightenment process, with Earth into new heaven, new Earth, and new Jerusalem to receive our wings to fly. Okay, that's my introduction. So before I play this little video, tell me how you feel. Have to be higher vibrations to reach higher dimensions. Totally. Go boys. Okay, but the Earth is changing anyways. There's nothing we can do about that. When the Q posts talk about, if you're not following Q, Q is a massive military operation to awaken people, basically, as to what's going on, get people to go and look, and to unlock our mindsets, our existing paradigm, so that we can see things differently. There's been a massive military operation going on. Well, really, the JFK senior assassination files will be released tomorrow, I believe. And he was that happened in 1963. I was born in 1963. So essentially my whole life, there's been, military movings, the good guys and the bad guys. And definitely since 2015, when Trump announced that he was going to run, military moves. He's the trumpet, and he's the voice for what's going on. And so we've been under serious military activity since 2015. Anybody have any comments or questions before I play the video? Because that's my introduction. And I'm telling you that you don't have to believe it all. I'm not asking you to believe it all. I'm not saying that I believe 100% of it. I haven't even researched it. I just knew that I've watched an awful lot of stuff, like a whole breadth of things. And I saw that and I thought, okay, that is actually really cool, because it's pointing to, again, who we are and the use of language metaphorically. And so I thought it would be a really good one to play as a group so that we can talk about it. And then when we answer questions on, like I said, finance or whatever you want to talk about. So anybody have any comments before we do that? You good with this? Here we go. I promise you it's not, it's it's positive stuff. I don't do negative. So I won't show any blood, guts, and gore. Okay, share sound. We got that part. Gotta go find it with all my tons of things open. It should be this one right here. Yep. Starts off with Jim Carrey, so how bad can it be, right? Okay.
About alchemical sexual alchemy. There's 33 vertebrae in your spine. There's 33 years in the life of Jesus.
Oops. Okay, what happened? Oh, okay, here we go.
So this substance comes from your medulla, makes the trip down your spine to your sacrum, which is Christ coming down into human form.
Yes.
And if you don't squander that essence, that sexual essence, it ascends again and goes back up to heaven, which is your thing. It's also the story of Santa Claus. Why he comes down the chimney is because this juice or this whatever substance actually passes what's called the claustrum, which is where they got Santa Claus. So it goes down the chimney and back up the chimney.
Was that on the video?
In the brain, in the cranium, there is the cerebrum. And in the cerebrum, and in particular, the claustrum is sitting right there in the middle of the head, virtually. From the claustrum, there is a secretion, brain fluid. And this fluid is an oil. And in ancient times, this fluid was called, in Greek, it's called Christos. It's called the Christ. It's this beautiful fluid which comes from the cerebrum and pours down the spinal cord. It goes down the spinal cord and it reaches the sacral plexus, right next door to the sacrum, which are the 5 second bottommost fused vertebrae bones at the bottom of the spinal column. The bottommost portion of the spinal column is called the coccyx. Then just above that is the sacrum. 5 fused bones. So the sacral plexus is connected to the sacrum. And the fluid which comes from the cerebrum pours down the spinal cord and comes to the bottommost part of the spinal cord. Now, the claustrum is otherwise known as the holy claustrum, simply because of this beautiful oil, this Christos, that is produced and secreted. You see, the word secret comes from secretion, because this secretion is a secret. And the sacrum is the sacred part of the secret. As the secretion pours down the spinal cord and reaches the sacrum, this is the marvelous way in which our body has been designed. And the spinal cord is basically just an extension of the brain. It also does thinking. And you see, the holy claustrum is otherwise known as the Santa Claustrum. You see, because this fluid that goes down to the sacred plexus is a sacred fluid. And this is where the story of Santa Claus bringing presents down the chimney comes from. It's a story of physiology. And the Bible is a beautiful manual of physiological regeneration. What happens with this fluid is that every month when the moon is in the sign where your sun was when you were born, every month there is a germ or a seed planted in the solar plexus, which is just above the sacral plexus. And that germ is the oil, the Christ, which is born in Bethlehem, because the solar plexus is otherwise known as Bethlehem, where the seed, where the Christ is born. And that seed, that oil needs to return whence it came, in the midbrain. You see, as the oil ascends the spinal cord, the vibration of the oil of the Christ increases. And you see, first of all, the oil is differentiated in the pineal gland and the pituitary gland before it is sent down the spinal cord. And the pineal gland is the electric portion, and the pituitary gland is the magnetic portion. So the oil is differentiated and it is brought down the spinal cord via the Pingala and the Ida nerves. These are what is otherwise known as the Kundalini and the Kundabhatha. So it arrives at the sacral plexus and awaits for the germinating of the seed once a month, 12 times a year. And if we are able to transmute that seed and cause it to rise, as it rises in the spinal cord, it eventually reaches the medulla oblongata and the pons and the midbrain, and it crosses the vagus nerve, otherwise known as the pneumogastric nerve. It's a nerve which descends from the brain area, from the pineal and pituitary glands, respectively, and it feeds the lungs and the stomach. It's a network of nerves, and this network of nerves is called the tree of life. And you see, the ancients knew that this seed that is born in Bethlehem once a month is the Christ, and that if one were to abstain from sex during that period, that oil and seed would be saved, and it would rise, and it would burst through the heart chakra, through the throat chakra, and eventually the oil would arrive with its higher vibration, because you see at the bottom, the oil has a very low vibratory rate. Whereas with proper practices, meditation, breathing, good eating, and good peaceful behavior, one is able to raise that Christ, that oil, so that it crosses the vagus nerve at the top of the spinal column, the 33 vertebrae of the spinal column. You see, because the Christ is crucified at 33 years of age. When the oil arrives at the very, very top, there awaiting is the optic thalamus, an egg-shaped organ in the middle of the head. When it crosses this pneumogastric nerve, this is called the crucifixion. The oil is not killed and destroyed, but it is magnified 1,000-fold. And the oil then touches the optic thalamus, and for 2.5 days remains in a condition that is considered to be dead, and then reaches the pineal gland after 2.5 days and illuminates the optic thalamus and the pineal gland. The optic thalamus was known as the light of the world by the Egyptians and the Greeks, because they knew their physiology and anatomy, and they knew that this precious oil, which descended from the claustrum, from the cerebrum, and was differentiated in the pineal and pituitary glands, and descended the spinal cord, they knew that it would ascend eventually, and that the enlightened portion of mankind were able to cause this Christ oil to ascend, so that it would ascend to the optic thalamus and cause it to be lightened. What in turn happens is that millions of brain cells that were dormant are now awakened. And you see, there are practices and there are things that are very, very detrimental about this oil, or that are detrimental to this oil. For instance, overeating and alcohol and sex practiced at the wrong time. These destroy the seed, and this is what is known as eating from the tree of life. Because you see, the ancients knew that once the oil is depleted because of riotous living, the fleshly organism dies. Death results from using up all of the oil. You see, the oil that descends from the cerebrum is known otherwise as the manna from heaven. You see, because heaven means heaved up. And the head, the cranium, the dome which sits on top of the torso, that was known as the heavens, you see. And the heart area and the heart chakra was known as the Midgard, or the Middle Garden. And the generative area was known as Sodom and Gomorrah, the area of desire, animal desire, you see. And otherwise known as Egypt and hell and the world, etc. Whereas the Garden of Eden and the land flowing with milk and honey, that's upstairs. In fact, the pineal gland produces the honey, a secretion known as honey, which has DMT in it, and the pituitary body secretes the milk. This is the milk and honey. And the land flowing with milk and honey is upstairs. This is a sacred secret simply because the secretion which comes from the sacral plexus is one of the most important things that we need to know for physiological regeneration. You see, by saving the seed, one can actually live longer. In fact, the ancients used to live for thousands of years by protecting and keeping this this secret and guarding it. The Egyptians built ascension chambers, pyramids, for this very purpose. And they taught the science of respecting and keeping and guarding and looking after this beautiful oil. And if you know the Gospels well, you will know all the scriptures that are referring to it. You see, I am the light of the world. He that follows me shall not walk in darkness. The light of the world is the optic thalamus. Keep your eye simple, for if your eye is dark, your whole body will be dark. That eye has always been known as the third eye. In fact, it's the spiritual eye. Now, as for the deniers, you see, most churchgoers will be denying this because in their mind, Jesus Christ is a historical person which must return physically in order to save them, because they cannot save themselves. They need a vicarious third-party savior. Whereas the opposite is true. And this is what the so-called Apostle Paul was talking about when he referred to the sacred secret of the Christ within, the Christ that dwelleth within. For you see, the kingdom of God is within. It's not without. And in fact, the words of Jesus are pretty clear where it says, do not be looking out there, for the kingdom of God will not come with striking observableness. Don't look here and don't look there, because there will be deceivers saying, oh, there he is, here is the Christ, there is the Christ. Because the process is within. And unless one is able to raise that energy and get out of the bottom chakras. You see, the bottom chakras deal with sexuality, strife, envy, power, greed, wealth, and all of those things. And if one is constantly seeking those things and constantly eating of the fruit of the tree of life, you see those beautiful nerves, the pneumogastric nerve system, they are responsible for bringing the oil back up, those beautiful spiritual presence. And we are the ones who are responsible for channeling that oil, that Christ seed within, so that it eventually is crucified in the middle of the head. You see, the cerebrum is hollowed out, and the midbrain and the limbic system at the top of the spinal cord is the holy of holies. And the cerebellum, which sits at the back of the brain, this is otherwise known as the small brain. The cerebrum is associated with the top of the head, Aries, and the cerebellum is associated with Taurus, and the left brain, the male left brain. The right brain is the feminine, and it is connected to the cerebrum, Aries, the God brain. You see, we have the God man is the cerebrum, the Adam man is the cerebellum. Now, you won't get any of this in church. This is esoteric truth. Exoteric truth denies this and has been perpetuated for the last few thousand years by so-called Christian churches in order to deny and hide the true story of physical regeneration. In the past, people have lived for thousands of years by preserving and conserving this oil and transmuting it so that it reaches the optic thalamus. You see, what happens when the oil reaches the optic thalamus is that new blood is generated in the body. Until such time as this process has occurred, we will have old, toxic blood in our physical organisms. And in order to regenerate and produce new blood, the oil must be raised to the optic thalamus, and healing can occur. And as I said before, the millions of dormant brain cells are reactivated. And the heavens, the cerebrum, were awaiting the return of the prodigal son. You see, because we all have these dormant brain cells in our brains. Yes, because they have not returned any of the oil. And in the Bible, this is known as tithing. You see, this is why the Bible says you must return 1/10 to the Lord. Remember, the Lord, the Lord, refers to the gold. You see, this is how we turn lead into gold. Our spinal cord is like a thermometer. And as the mercury rises with warmth, the more so, with enlightenment and consciousness and knowledge, we are able to raise the condition of this oil. And as it climbs the spine and ascends, it raises its vibration. In fact, when it gets crucified at the top of the spine where the pneumogastric nerve is crossed, this does not mean death. This means, crucifixion means to multiply 1,000-fold. And you see, not only is physical regeneration a result of this, but also spiritual regeneration. And one is able to experience the higher mind and clairvoyance. You see, mediumship occurs down in the solar plexus. There are 4 brains in the human body. The cerebrum, what is otherwise known as the God brain, the cerebellum, which is the man brain, the medulla oblongata, which is responsible for the involuntary actions in the body, such as breathing and blood circulation. And the 4th brain is the solar plexus, which is more related to the animal instinctive brain, which receives images from the ether, from the air, you see, just like the animals do, and they react correspondingly without reason and logic, instinctively. So you see, this is why it is so important to raise the oil, so that one can get out of the lower mind. The lower mind is the solar plexus, and wrought with problems. You see, ascension is within. One ascends to heaven, the heaved up place, the dome of the cerebrum. You see, those 2 flaps, those hollowed out hemispheres of the cerebrum, are otherwise known as the cherubim. You see, in the Bible, God says to Moses, you must build the Ark of the Covenant with 2 cherubim above the Ark, covering over. And inside the Ark shall be placed the manna and the law of God, the 2 tablets. Well, I'm here to tell you that the optic thalamus is the Ark of the Covenant. And the limbic system and the midbrain, the pons, the medulla oblongata, the pineal gland, these are the Holy of Holies. This is where one needs to return the good oil. In the middle of the head, there is something known as the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the little horse. This is the white horse that Jesus rides upon. There is There is something known as Ammon's horn. Yeah, absolutely. Ammon's horn in the middle of the head. Ammon's horn? Goodness me. Would that be in Jesus' name, Ammon, the same dude? Yeah, it would. We have the claustrum. We have the cerebrum, the covering angels, the cherubim, which cover over, because the cerebrum covers over the cerebellum and the midbrain and the optic thalamus and the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, otherwise known as Joseph and Mary. You see, these two are the ones that are responsible for sending the oil down the spine, down the spinal cord. And they are the ones that await the return of their son, who is born in Bethlehem, the solar plexus, once a month. Once a month when the moon is in the sun sign that you were born under.
Oh, I'll send the URL in the follow-up. So I'm not saying you got to believe any of that, but I'm here to tell you that language is a vibration, both written and spoken. And we know that part of how language has been used against us. And I'm telling you, as sure as I'm talking right now, that it was innocent. I just went looking for answers, and I found the symbolic meaning in those first 5 words in the book of Revelation. And I have since found so much more just by using etymology. So this guy is using etymology, and he's connecting it to the body. And we watched another one last night that was also on the symbolic meaning. And so I'm not going to tell you that I've researched all of that, but I said at the beginning, and I said in my email, something like, I'd never heard it explained like that before, but I do know that just by reading the book of Revelation and everything, all the rest of it, that I figured out on my own from those first 5 words that we are the answer, that we are way more powerful. And then from that position of who we are, who we already are, things start to make sense as to why they would have to do so much deception. Yes, they have a totally twisted form of how they do that. I mean, some of the stuff that I have learned, I don't even like to think about, let alone repeat, because it is so horrific. But part of that horrificness is because of the energy. I'll just use children, for example. The energy, a child is pure. If you terrify a child, it puts out a very low vibration. So, never mind what happens as a result of that, and with various things, but they know that, and have created lie upon lie upon lie upon lie. And the very fact that we can have this conversation, that there's a video like that we are seeing so much information, new information, is a big giant check mark in terms of what's going on. And what's going on is not, it is the end of the world. There's no doubt. But the world represents their world, their politics, their finance, their religion, their education, their science, their medicine, their media, their spelling, their spell casting. It represents the end of their control. The Bible calls it Babylon in the New Testament, in Greek, Babel in Hebrew. In both cases, it was a centralized system of control. And it's so interesting because Babel blah, 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 is language. And language is a form of technology. And in both cases, the Tower of Babel fell, and then everything was decentralized. And in Babylon, That's it. When Babylon falls, it falls. And if you read the list in Revelation 18 of all the things that fall, one of them is the bodies and souls of men.
I reject that thought.
No, that's what falls. That's no
No,
more.
I know. I reject
So that means
we fall.
they no longer control us. I should have read it
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what we want. And so we reject the lies. And I want to believe what you just showed. I want to believe that God is in control of our bodies. Like, it gives a lot more meaning. Like, our kids need meaning. You can go and study physiology, anatomy and physiology and get A, but
we all need meaning.
We need meaning. And
Yeah.
and you start jabbing every man, woman, and child to take away meaning.
Yeah. Well,
and
even
we reject that.
Even your alphabet will mean more. Yeah. 100. Totally. I've shared before the movie. There was a documentary called Superhuman. And Superhuman, in there was a lot of stuff that was really incredible. But one of the things was young children learning how to read blindfolded. Instead of learning how to strengthen their left brain and their right hand, they learned how to strengthen their intuitive, to be able to feel the vibrations of the written word. Even like, to us, it seems completely like impossible, but it's been done. And it watch that movie Superhuman. They were training the children how to activate their unlimited, their God brain, if you want to call it that. The way we were intended to be is a beautiful thing. So yeah, the reason I quoted that, Sky, was because what they no longer control our bodies and our souls is what is the very end of that whole big long passage of everything that they've controlled, which is essentially everything, right? They don't control us when they can maybe control our mind, but they can't control that. We're incredible beings. And so with that as a, throw in a whole bunch of other things to consider, and you can go and do your research. I encourage everybody to go and use etymology. The one that there's a few of them, but it's etymolon. Oh boy, it's on my list of links. Etymology online, but they shortened it into one word. And if you want to go and look up the etymology of any word you want, I just would go to my browser and type etymology and then whatever the word is. So etymology, sacred. Sacred, it's a mental thing. It has to do with, all that stuff in your brain, sacrum, sacred, all kind of connected. It's all very, very special. All these metaphors. The other part so that one was just about our human body, but the other part, when you look at etymology, you get a really cool picture about the heavens, and the stories tell the same thing. So there's definitely a connection between the heavens and who we are. So you get the same kinds of stories being told in the stars as what we just saw there. So that's my backdrop for lifting the veil and looking at things with a completely new set of lenses. And sometimes when you are confronted with that, or when you see stuff like that, for me, like, even this is the second or third time I've seen that now, I guess. Sometimes there's a settling, and you don't necessarily have to take it all in, but just kind of let it settle and see how it feels. And that's a really good practice when you're looking at making decisions right now in this period of transition. Because very soon, and according to this particular woman that was talking about what we just saw, we do know about the solstices, right? The spring solstice, spring, winter, fall. So Easter and Christmas have been the two most satanic holidays. That we haven't seen it because we are busy doing the positive side of things, which probably neutralizes it. But regardless, winter solstice is the darkest, shortest day of the year, right? At least in the northern hemisphere, it is. And so we are right now in an area called the 12-12 portal. And I don't really understand all that stuff. It's like a whole new language to me, but I do know that there's a connection between the energies in the stars, the energies on the earth, and even what we see being played out in politics and military actions and business and etc. There's a connection between the spiritual and the physical. And so as we head into this particular season, we're in a window right now that goes from December 12th to December 21st or 22nd. And she actually said that the crucifixion would the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. So, there's lots of energies that we can start to sense when you lift the veil of your mind and just let it kind of flow. And use that to imagine things, because the power of our mind is to create things, because our mind has an energy. What we think produces a vibration. So if we think, the sky is falling, if we think the political establishment is, closing in, we're putting out a certain lower vibration, right? So it's why it's so important to imagine a beautiful future. And even though we might not have any intellectual comprehension about how do we get from where we are living in a complete debt-based financial slave system based on an illusion of whatever to no money at all, let's take the next step. And what does it actually look like, right? But imagine it and start to imagine, what is absolute freedom for the entire planet look like? What does absolute equality look like? Not that everybody lives in the exact same house like you get with the Cat in the Hat or something, but where everybody has equal opportunity. Your biggest challenge is what are you going to contribute to the world around us? Those are, you get up, you don't have to work, but you get to pursue your passions and your purposes. You get to learn and to study so that you can strengthen your skills, because we're wired to contribute. We're wired to create. So when we don't have to do things, you're always looking at how do you make things better? Let's just take a household task like vacuuming or laundry or garbage or cooking or whatever. How do you take just day-to-day stuff and improve it, automate it, so that we have more time to pursue the connection to who we are in creation and who we are to each other? Like, imagine some of the skills and some of the ideas that we could come up with. Like, how about this one? How about a bed that makes itself? That'd be a good place to start, right? Laundry that folds itself. I'm into these kinds of things because I've started to think about day-to-day tasks. Maybe you've heard, or maybe you haven't, about replicators. If you look at Star Wars as or not Star Trek, Star Trek as a documentary, then start to think about some of the things they had. We don't necessarily have to know how they work, but if that's real, then what does life look like and what would need to be in place? Like, how do we get around? We can have flying cars, but then you still got to make cars. And, see, what we've been taught is in a centralized system where somebody else determines that you get this much money and you have to do this, and we're completely controlled, tracked every move. That's not good. because we're still thinking we got to go and earn a living. In that living, then we're going to be restricted. But I've been saying for a long time, I'm waiting for my flying car, but who knows, maybe I'm really waiting for teleporting. There's all kinds of evidence that it existed long time ago. They did it, Beam Me Up, Scotty, right? And Dream of Genie, and what are the other ones? Bewitched, all those kinds of things. They tell us stuff in movies. I'd love to say, hey, you guys, let's get together. We can all, share some food and we'll do this. And then you can still go home for dinner. Yeah, since I was little, I wanted the Beam Me Up Scotty machine. Yeah, totally. My friends live on the coast. My friends are all around the world right now. I don't know a lot of people in this little tiny town. I would love to do that. I'd love to say to Joe in the morning, okay, I'm going to go have lunch with my friends in Australia. I'll see you for dinner. Like those things challenge your brain. But now pull that back, and what needs to be confirmed in your heart, that your heart can then tell your head when it starts to go, I'm going to lose everything, and yeah, they're going to lock us down, and oh, I'm going to die, or whatever. Bazillions of people are going to. What has to happen so that your heart knows? It knows. You don't necessarily have to be able to explain how. You just know that that it's going to be good. I've got like a list now that's just so big, I kind of lose track of it. But, every once in a while, you got to deal with stuff. I had to go to the bank today, and I was just getting sick to my stomach because we switched banks. And so until I switched over to the new bank, I just went, the cheap fees. And now I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be dinged $1.25 or something every time I used the bank account. Well, it turns out they actually charge you to deposit money into the account. Never mind just pulling it out. And she goes, well, as long as you keep like $5,000 in there, so that you can use it, then we won't charge you. And it's been like this for the longest time, but I'm thinking, I don't want to pay you $20 a month just for the privilege of having a bank account. And as she was talking, I started to go, I know that I can get money in and out. I'm just going to keep it on my Stellar account, on my Quantum account, because it's free and it's immediate. And I can hardly wait till I can go and buy a coffee and go buy groceries and stuff on everything that's in my on our asset-backed system. I know that it's actually got real value, and I know that everything is tracked and everything is secure, and I know that it's immediate and it's fast, and I don't want to have to deal with this. What do you mean $20 a month just for the privilege of keeping money in the bank so that, they can use it and I can't because, I deposited a $30 check today. Check a picture, nice and convenient, right? I deposited a $30 check to find out, it's a brand new account. They're going to hold it for 10 days. Why do we think that this is acceptable? Why have we put up with it for so long? It's not acceptable. So if it's not acceptable, okay, that would be called righteous anger. But first of all, recognize all of these things that really are stupid. And then if you don't really know how the system works and you just go, I don't like that, then go and do the research. I've shared a whole bunch of links about how the system works, right? They just print money out of thin air and then they charge it back to us at 20% interest. And then, I need to get out of debt. No, it's not your debt. They've taken your value and manipulated it, stolen your life, and now they're charging it back and making you pay 20% and taxes and taxes and taxes. That whole system is twisted. And the fact that we know that is one of those check marks, because we're open to new ideas and the information is getting out. There's people that have, we all, I think, intuitively have known something is wrong. My dad called me stubborn. he said, you're so stubborn. And I said, well, you always said that I was a rebellious 2-year-old. And I started to think about that. And I think probably right around that time is when I just started to rebel against trying to be pigeonholed into a certain way of being. I feel good about being a rebel now. It wasn't easy, right? But now it's like, now my life makes more sense. Because you just know these things are not right.
Sam, may I say something?
100%, of course. You always have good stuff.
Okay. Ever since I found out just how much of our world history we've been lied to, I made a point of trying to give it a week to just about every culture to learn whatever I can find on the internet and so on. And this week, I've been watching videos from Vietnam.
Oh.
And how people live there, how they do commerce, how they it's mostly they gear mostly on survival off the land, right? Gardening and so on, and having a farm. And I was struck that basically you can have a garden, you can get your produce, just load it up on your back for the day. You need money or you need something, you load up your produce, you go and sell it on the street in the market, directly cash, no taxes. You go buy directly cash, no taxes, no bank accounts, no interact. And I'm thinking, why isn't the government involved? Right? Because we're so used to having the government involved, collecting all that extra money, right? And I mean, that was a shocker for me when I came to Canada to realize, wait a minute, for everything I purchase, I have to pay extra. It made no sense, but in 35 years, I got used to it. And then seeing videos from other countries, it brought that to mind again. Wait a minute. This is so wrong, being triple taxed. You pay taxes on what you earn, you pay taxes at the store, you pay taxes everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, the people in Vietnam, in Cambodia, I last week I was watching videos from Cambodia and so on. They live freer than we do. And it's like, I want to move there.
Well, as things shift, we will be able to live anywhere.
I hope so.
Because like the passport system, the driver's license, all of these things are all about control. They're just controlling with pieces of paper and numbers. But as Michelle and I were doing this, I think it was on the weekend, there's a legal entity identifier system where any, like your birth certificate, driver's license, your social insurance number, all these things, they're a legal entity that is like basically a piece of paper that is a persona. And they're traded on the commercial paper market. You know, like people buy and sell you, essentially, the piece of paper that's attached to you. And you can track this. Michelle, I think, used 80 transactions or something. I had like 105. And like, once you see it, you can't not see it. And once you start to see some of this, it opens up your mind to seeing other things. And for the whole reason for having these conversations is because we are very, very, very close to what has been building for a long time, and we just refer to as the flip. Because at some point, everything has to flip at once, because it is all so integrated. And we're seeing the controlled demolition of all of this fakery. And in fakery, you can change out one of those vowels and you get more like what's really gone on. Because it's it's all made up. It's all an illusion, right? They print money, they take your name and they make it all caps. They change the language. The language has double meaning. That in, earn and earn as in the URN and earn as in EARN. They're the same thing, so they have the same vibration. They have the occult knowledge and they've used it for evil. So we can learn from that, but we have to first of all be open-minded to the fact that it's okay, that we're not subjecting ourselves to devil worship. We are actually, we're learning how things function, how they have enslaved us, how things work. And then from there, it kind of, you bring it in through your mind, it comes to your heart kind of sifts and sorts it. You get a little bit wobbly and oozy for a while, and then you keep looking, but you see things from a different perspective. That's how I know I got honed in on stellar. Once I started to see stellar, I was like, what the heck is stellar? Stellar. I didn't understand it for like 6 months. And my story, oh, thank you, Bill. Okay, bye. He's had to go. I saw the beer token. I didn't understand exactly what I was seeing, but I saw this thing is called a beer token. I was like, what the heck is a beer token, right? It has to do with hospitality. And then you just start looking and you start reading about all these different things. And I just, for whatever reason, it drew me in, because I knew that it had asset backing with silver, and silver, we know historically, was what people traded. But as soon as you have anything that's printed, then now you've got a mint. So there's a control, there's a centralization there. And then you also get the bank that's going to look after it for you, and poof, right away, you're back into control. So as soon as you have anything physical, so people are freaking out about digital not backed by anything. Yeah, not cool. Total manipulation. But token, meaning that, here, my mama bear mug. If I issued a token based on this mama bear mug, this is a very physical thing, right? You can touch and feel it. So you do that with precious metals, and then you tokenize the actual value, and then you digitize that so that it's efficient. Now you have less potential for centralization. And when you have centralization is when you have the potential for control. We are in control. The whole term devolution is returning the control to the people. And then all the systems, they work for us, right? We own the land, we get the value, everything else is on top of that. That's why it makes no sense to go and think that the current system is going to help us out. It's not. The current system can't work because the current system is based on centralized control. The only thing that can work is returning to real value. And that means shifting our minds. So there was some really good comments in here. I walked out of the bank with, yeah, we used to be able to do all kinds of stuff, right? That we can't do now. You can't even pick up the phone and talk to a financial institution without having to wait for like 45 minutes and then go through the third degree to verify your identity. And you have to do it in their particular order. You can't just, if God help us if we gave our postal code before we gave our street address or something, because it throws off their system. So I didn't know what a bank account was until you came to Canada. I still don't know where the bank was located. Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool. We don't need, the banks they are bankrupt because the money has been cut off. The US, the Treasury has taken over the Fed. The corporate structure of governments has been dissolved. And we are seeing now the removal of these people that are de facto, that are masquerading, they're criminals that have been stealing and attempting to control. None of the laws and rules and things that they're putting into place right now will stand. We're seeing all of that destroyed and return to a republic, which is the people have the power. Oh, I'm going to stop talking because we'll just have a couple more minutes. Anybody have some specific questions? I did have money questions. The biggest question I get is, where do I put my money? Should I pull it all out? Should I cash in my RSP? Do I need to put it all into silver or gold? And, you know, those, generally the same question. Make sense? You know, where do I put my money? Okay, this is where you got to pull back and go, okay, there's 8 billion people on the planet. There's 38 million people in Canada. And I don't know, Carl, where you're from, or Dave, where you're from, but the rest of us are Canadians. And so there's an awful lot of people, and that's when you want to go and look at who's in control and what's really happening. So yes, there is a systematic destruction of anything that has corrupted. So the stock market, the real estate market, even the precious metals market, for sure, the crypto market, none of that is based on reality, even the real estate market. Because the real estate market, when you register, that's regal, that's a monarch term, you register land titles, you become a tenant. You're a joint tenant, or you're a tenant in common on that land. You know, how many years have we talked about that? I've talked about that in finance. It's like, oh, it's right there in your face. We're only ever tenants. It's not a joint owner. You're a joint tenant. So the whole real estate system has got to change, right? Because all of that right now is centralized control. The stock market is circular ownership that is funneled up to like 3 companies and ultimately to the Vatican Bank. Right, all of those companies are bankrupt and their assets have been seized. So we're seeing an unwinding of that the company that produces and distributes the noni, they were a publicly traded company that had funding from I think all 3 of them, if Tina's there, like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. Right, so
Didn't I read something last night that one of the big banks in Germany, was it Deutsche? One of them basically pled guilty.
Yeah, for billions of dollars.
Yes, and they agreed to forfeit however many billions of dollars to pay for damages they've done. So sooner or later, they're all going to be doing that, I hope.
Yeah, we all hope so. So the big question is, what do you do in the meantime, right? I mean, it's not what everybody wants to know. Okay, first of all, none of us know for sure. Okay, so just because, you know, like me, Michelle, Tina, we've been doing a lot of studying, and we're actually investing seriously. We've done a ton of research, and we're investing in the new quantum system. And that's given us really awesome insights into the banking, political, the new systems that are coming. But we still are in the same situation, because you still got to buy groceries, right? So the message is, have enough cash on hand and food and gas and various things for a couple weeks. Because think about how human beings are. And Michelle told a really awesome story, because we were thinking about the people in the Ukraine without any energy, right? They're in the Northern Hemisphere, it's cold there. And so Michelle told some really awesome stories that she knows from growing up in Romania. And we all know that human beings look after each other, and we're very resourceful when we have to. And I loved your story, Michelle, about somebody that had learned how to create a little fire pit out of bricks in her apartment in order to produce heat, boil water, cook food, do whatever.
See, the thing is that as much as we feel for the Ukrainian people and all the other countries really that are going to have a long, hard winter. No, there's no question about it. What we forget is that we think about them and their hardship in our terms, in what we're used to living. But those people, they have a lot more knowledge than I even forgot. They know how to survive harsh winter, harsh conditions. They have kept a lot of their traditions alive. Like my sister even reminded me a couple of nights ago, she says, remember when, because our heating in Romania growing up, it was rationed. And if you used up all your ration for the family for that month, you went cold. There was no more cooking unless you cooked with wood. No more heating, no more anything. And we lived in a city, in a fairly big city in the middle of Romania. And she says, remember when we used to sleep in our ski gear, ski suits? Yes, we slept in our ski gear because we had no heating. And at minus 25, whatever the temperature was outside. And that's what we have to also keep in mind. As harsh as it is, those people are a lot better equipped than we are. I forgot about sleeping in my snowsuit, but my sister reminded me.
Yeah. You know, like, and then we can go and we can see the push by the system to like vilify wood stoves and, you know, various things, right? All of these things that cut us off from our ability to look after ourselves. And why do you think they don't want us to grow gardens? Oh, it's dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I lived in Winnipeg, I lived there 15 years after coming to Canada. And we were in our second house, my ex-husband and I always wanted a wood fireplace or a wood stove that I could cook on because the food tastes better. And I said to him, I said, I really want one of those. He says, well, I have to find out from the insurance company how much our insurance are going to go up, is going to go up. I said, what do you mean? Why would they do that? Well, you risk a fire. I said, my grandma cooked with wood, raised 8 kids with wood, and there was never a fire. What are they talking about?
Yeah.
It's just all a song and dance.
Yep.
That's all it is.
It is. They get us with paper. There's 2 ways to enslave a population. One is with the sword and the other one is with debt. And so we live in a debt-based system. It's not our debt. That's really, like, if you take nothing else out of this, it's not our debt. It's their debt that they have that belongs to us, that they have told us, they've made us grovel for access to money that really should have been ours in the first place. And then they've charged us interest. They do the same thing with, it's like blackmail, right? Or, you know, whatever. It's fear-based. It's what they've done with whole nations. They make the nations subservient so that they have to they have to buy into this debt-based system. And then they charge them interest on money that they print out of thin air. Watch The Creature from Jekyll Island if you haven't already. So just stop Freeland from borrowing 5. Yeah, you know, but they're not getting any money. Like the Fed's not printing any money. The Fed is bankrupt. There is no Fed anymore. The US Treasury note has already been issued and is available on the Stellar network. And confirmation that the physical gold or rainbow version is also available. There is a new US note. And so okay, back to the money thing, and then we'll kind of end here unless you have another question. Because the purpose was to just kind of shake it up a little bit and start to see things from a new perspective. And it's a time of year where we want to get that higher vibration. Everything we do needs to be done in that high vibration. And I think I started this call with, I was irritated today for no particular reason, but I think that's an indication about all the energies that are going on, because we feel that stuff. We totally feel it, right? So so I liked what you said there, Bo Boys. We stopped them from borrowing. I mean, that's a good indication that, I mean, there isn't anything there anyways, right? Like, we're seeing stuff played out. There's just the most bizarre thing when you realize that a lot of stuff has already been done and now we're seeing it now. Like that we're expecting the announcement of the SEC dropping the Ripple case, or that Ripple has won the SEC lawsuit. But that we already have confirmation that that was done in October of 2021. But it's going to come out like it's news. So we're seeing it play out because we're like seeing the enemy destroy themselves from the inside out. It's like this big giant sting operation, and we're living inside a movie, and it's just the most bizarre thing when you actually, but it's easier to kind of comprehend when you come at it from the everything is a lie, everything is an illusion. And then it kind of makes sense because you have to lift the veil because we were living in a lie. Now it's just coming to the surface that we're living in a lie. And so it's helping people see how they have deceived us. Canada has no money. You're right. But you know what Canada has? Land and huge value, right? We were the second wealthiest nation on the planet behind Russia. Okay, it's pretty awesome. So any more, what do you mean, no, it doesn't? How do we not have resources in our land? That we totally do. And we have resources in our people, right? No, it doesn't. You do not. What? I do not know. Can you not, you can't speak, boys? Well, anybody have any other question before we, oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
The original people have title to the land. Canada's only been borrowing it and stealing it.
Oh yeah, okay.
The Toltec people have just joined us, and their people don't have a share in that gold mine that's operating on their land now, because it all goes to corporation. Canada and BC split the royalties from the gold.
Okay, so yeah,
that's the same thing on our land here for the first 30 years of the operating sand and gravel. There's no, you got it wrong. The people of Canada don't share in the resources. The money goes offshore. You don't see it. And Canada doesn't have a land base. So that's wrong too.
Yeah, okay. The technicality is
Canada's not rich. The corporations are rich.
The corporate, yeah, it's all, but okay, so what Bo Boys has brought up is again the language and the whole fakery. The land that, this nation that we call Canada is a corporation, or was a corporation. It's now bankrupt and dissolved.
So it's called a foreign government called 888 under the Securities Exchange of Edgar's Coding. So it's not even a country, just a foreign government.
It's just a foreign government.
Crown hasn't been on this land since 1901. So, when you say there's a king and a monarch, there hasn't been one since 1901.
They've just been trespassing, right? The whole thing, again, it's an illusion. We've been occupied territory. We think we're a nation. No, we're not. There's a government. There's a piece of paper that was created that's nothing at all like what we think. All the other pieces of paper that we think, are ours are not. The whole thing is an illusion. So Bo Boys is totally right. This area that we commonly call Canada is really a piece of paper that has domiciled in Washington, D.C., trades on the exchange. It is a number, it's a piece of paper, that's it. And out of that number, they have stolen all the resources on this land mass. The land mass belongs to the people.
Canada's been operating on the trust of the Indian people's money at $35 billion a year. So everything that the people pay as in taxes, that goes to Chase Manhattan and down to Panama.
Yeah. So that is all. So this is where it gets really exciting, because once you know that, that's coming back to the people, right? Canada is a complete illusion. I mean, we're really an anomaly on the global scene, because we were kind of a nothing. We've just been occupied territory. We have been used and operating as a developed nation, participating in all of these, developed, the G20 and, yada, yada, yada. But really, we're nothing. We've just been occupied territory, being raped and pillaged and used and abused. And we've been taught that, everybody knows, the Canadians, they're nice people. I'm now thinking that was intentional, right? So in any case, it's not nice when you realize that what they've done, but it's really good when you realize what's coming back, because fraud vitiates everything. All that money's coming back in one way or t'other. So any last questions? Did I kind of help the financial thing? If you got money in an RSP, get it out of like mutual funds and stuff. Just keep it in cash. We do have word that RSPs, RIFs, pensions, stuff like that. I mean, just think the entire population is here. And I've said this before, if you currently have $1 million, by the time you take out all of the fakery it might end up being worth $10,000. And this is just for illustration purposes only, but just hypothetically. Okay, millions now we're 10,000, but everything is relative. Eggs are 10 cents and stuff like that. And then the key is what's coming in behind is on that same scale of, just for illustrations, would be worth 100 million plus freedom. So our entire perspective of wealth and money is changing. And so what we're doing is we're bridging between here and flip, and then from flip to, you know, how do you get started in rebuilding, and then to eventually, how do we work our way out of having any kind of a monetary system where we're free. So in between now and flip, keep as much cash as you need for a couple of weeks, gas in the car, food in the fridge, don't panic. You know, get out of the stock market. 100% do not get into crypto. Crypto is not backed by anything. The quantum system consists of Ripple, Stellar, XTC, Algo, and anybody remember, Tina or Michelle, what was the fifth one? There's 5 components, but the one that we all want for us is Stellar. And stellar.org, you can go read about it. Quantum Stellar Initiatives, or QSI Resources, is an educational arm to start learning about it. Our bank accounts are currently backed by XLM, which is silver. Ripple will be like institution to institution, nation to nation kind of stuff. So it's not, you can buy XRP if you want, but you don't buy it on any kind of crypto exchange, because there's no guarantee about how that whole thing is going to work. We're moving into a fully asset-backed digital system. And part of being able to perceive this is to know how to read between the lines, because sometimes you'll hear crypto, but really they're talking about digital asset-backed currencies. Sometimes you'll hear CBDCs, and yes, because there's a deep state agenda and then there's the good guy agenda, but the good guy agenda is already in place, and we're seeing it lined up. It's been in place, building since 2015, and the entire world is loading up. Every nation, every company, all the seized assets, all of the utilities to bridge in the fiat system, and the US Treasury note, the new US one just launched on Stellar. We can see all that coming. And so Michelle, Tina, and I, and, you know, other people that have invested the time to learn, that's not an intellectual, you know, I sure hope so. That's we know so. So don't even think about any kind of crypto. Yeah, Rosemary. Oh, I can't hear you. If you go close, I can, yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you, you know, when you say digital currency, are you talking about the CBDCs?
No, not necessarily. No, not the way
that everybody's getting really worried about, the digital control.
Yeah, not that kind. There is a CBDC, but a CBDC for the purposes, not the crypto kind. Mm-hmm. The kind that is wrapped, meaning it is connected to and fully asset backed. Yeah, there you go. Tina just put it in ABDC, asset backed digital currency. Totally different. And it facilitates the efficient and effective transfer within a geographical area and internationally, et cetera, et cetera. It's all still part of the transition. The US Treasury note would be one of those asset-backed digital currencies. Anything that doesn't have an asset backing and anything that is not connected to the quantum system, which consists of those 5 things, of which the one that you need to remember is Stellar, don't even think about it right now. Don't even think about it. Learn about Stellar is really probably the best advice that we could give, because it's hooked up internationally. We can right now internationally go and take our worthless pieces of paper that we commonly call Canadian dollars and we can go to the post office and use MoneyGram for free instantly and put money into our silver-backed wallet, digital wallet in XLM. Instant, free, totally bypasses the bank. And then you start to think about that. So there will be no taxes, like Michelle was saying, because there's absolutely no way they can control it. No, the only tax will be on a flat consumption tax on new purchases. There's absolutely no way they can track anything. Decentralized, immediate, free, anywhere in the world, fully asset-backed, connected to silver. Okay. Oops. Did you have a question, Ted? Oh, can't hear. I can hear your lips moving.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can hear Rosemary.
Oh, she's on this side. That's why. Can you hear me? So
Yep.
yeah, I said this all sounds like a dream come true. Wow.
It is. It's probably, you know, there's a passage in the Bible, Ephesians 3:20, that says that we can do all things through Christ, through the empowering, beyond anything that we could ever ask or imagine, immeasurably more, because we could never even see it before. Right? Through that empowering of who we really are, we're not slaves. We are not controlled. We can see things, and the earth and the sky and the military are supporting, you know, but the earth itself is facilitating in this shift in vibrations, which is raising our empowering. It's lifting the veil so that we can see this stuff and we can come back into who we really are, like our real powerful being. It is a dream come true. It is more than a dream come true. It is, like Tina said, where's the beam me up Scotty machine? Where's the replicator? I'm hungry. I'm going to go have dinner, but we're limited to what we can cook and what food we have. But when you've got a replicator, you can have anything within seconds. You have no need. You have no lack. So when, in that case, then, you know, what you can create with your mind, what you can create with your hands becomes so much more valuable. You don't have anything disposable, right? You're just always constantly, it's all being turned back and replenishing. The Bible talks about, you know, multiply, go forth and multiply. You don't multiply by destroying forests and, you know, sucking, you know, clear cutting and sucking everything out of the ground. That's ridiculous, actually.
So Sam, everybody is worried about the CBDCs. It's all over the place. I just don't, you see, it's just so hard for me to wrap my head around.
Well, Tina and Michelle, do we even pay any attention to that other than what we can see happening with Stellar? Like, I don't. I hear about it, but it doesn't even resonate because that's totally deep state. And so when you know that there's, like, honestly, I wonder if I have it open. Hang on one second. Let me just flip.
So like, if you think about it, they're talking right now about testing it and getting it going.
Yeah.
All these, you know, XRP, XLM, it's already done.
It's already done,
you know, it's been since 2015 or whatever. Like, these guys are like so behind the ball. By the time they get up to speed, it's just all showmanship right now. Because you're either watching TV, you know, I don't know. Because I don't see anything like that. I don't be on any channel that talks about it. I just go past it. It's all fear. It's some fear mongering, right? Right? Because they don't want you to think that we're going into abundance.
Totally. I'm gonna share my screen for a second, and I'm gonna show you. This is just a spreadsheet that's not even a spreadsheet that we've been using, and the only thing I'm going to show you in here is, okay, these are assets. Like these are all like different projects. Hang on a second. Now look at all the nations that have signed on as I'm scrolling. Okay, there's every nation on the planet has signed on to what's called SPIA, which is the stellar something, something, something. So, but like, you know, there's nations we didn't even know existed, right? Every nation and all of their respective assets for their currency, their companies and resources, et cetera. Like I'm just going and going. There's, you know, look at that, British Columbia. Okay, but keep going and going and going. That actually is interesting. I never noticed that before, you guys, because we're in there separate, not as Canada. So, okay, just wait. I haven't even reached the part where we get into the different categories of things. Here we go. So see, there are CBD tokens. There's Canada. Like if and I'll just go to the bottom and then you can see there's payments, there's Ireland, every country. There's like luxury assets, there's minerals. Monopolies was a really interesting one. In fact, I'll go there. I mean, you just go on. There's the NBA, basketball teams, Netflix. These are all assets that are tokenized that are already lining up. And you can see the volume of what's there. Okay, so now if I'll just go to monopolies. This is kind of fun. So these are what we are realizing. A lot of these are seized assets. So, you know, there's Google. Oh, look, the Hudson's Bay. Lux Taka is a really interesting one because it says Italian eyewear, but they are a monopoly on eyeglasses and anything to do with optometry, right? So like any one of these, like when you start to see this and then you know that they are all adherent to the ISO protocols for international standard protocols for efficiency and transparency for digital assets, for banking, that they are all compliant with how do I get out of here now? Basel IV, which is for banking and the types of assets and the types of assets and the volume, like the quantity of assets, and then Bretton Woods, which is nation to nation, all coming back to being not the gold standard, because that's still very different. That's still tied to the moving price of gold, but a gold-backed asset. When you put all that stuff together, it's absolutely undeniable. As Tina said, this has been in place and we're in the final throes of it. Like the point of sale is hooked up, Visa's on there, MasterCard's on there, like all of these things, they're all there. It's all loaded. And it's not like it takes time to learn, but when you open your eyes and you go see all that other stuff, you don't even see it. You don't even see it. And then you just go through the check. Okay, what about that star? Like seriously, we got a new star. Or go look at the Schumann resonance. That's like, you can't change this stuff. And then go and start seeing what the military is doing. Oh my goodness, the military activity right now is really cool. I didn't think I'd be interested in military activity, but there's people that track the airplanes. Like it's undeniable that we are entering into the age of Aquarius. You know, go back to the 1970s, the dawning of the age of Aquarius by the fifth dimension, right? So there's no doubt, and it's coming very fast. So yeah, Joe, my husband's in the background. He goes, you know, this is World War III. We don't think of it like that, but it's the governments of the world against the people. And we have support from a worldwide military alliance, which was, from the best we can tell, initially put together after the Kennedy assassination. And who knows, maybe even before the assassination, because all that stuff is going to be released tomorrow. But in any case, it's good. We win. Because we are, like, just look at the video, right? Look at how made. You know, the God source is, you know, we are all connected. We're all one. Everything vibrates and we have the power. We win. And then this is why history is so important to know. And it's why they've hidden history and stolen history from us. When you go back in history, there have been times when, you know, great cataclysms, you know, the flood, and, you know, most of the population was wiped out. The last great cataclysm was in the 1800s. Right, continuing through to the early 1900s, our lifetime. our grandparents' lifetime. They did it because they knew that nothing can stop what is coming, because it's not, it's the time, you know, on the big clock, because the earth itself is with us. The entire planet is evolving. The sun has returned a different energy to the planet. It's cool. Okay, please tell us the link that to that last. I can't share that link. Well, I mean, I can tell you how you can get it, Ted, to that spreadsheet. If you have a Telegram account, on my channel at the top is here's how you can get started. And one of the things is once you've got started, go through QSI, the QSIresources.com to get set up. Then we have a private Telegram group that we made with a bunch of resources. And one of them is a group called the Lobster Collective. And the Lobster Collective has the Lobster Lobby, the collective lobby. And so
I just put the link in the chat.
Oh, did you? Also, okay, perfect. Yeah, the Lobster Collective chat join. There you go. So once you're ready and you've gone through some of the resources there, then you can join and then you can get the spreadsheet. So I could share it, but it's not going to mean anything, right? Until, yeah, thanks, Tina. That's awesome. This is why we gathered together too, because we all have different access, and, you know, we've connected with this other big group over there and with the QSI group over there. We follow Whiplash because he's connected to the military as it relates to stellar and all kinds of new issues and various things. Like, it's amazing, as Tina said earlier, you know, a whole lifetime, whole university in the last 6 months, really, or the last few years. But it's where we're going. Nobody misses out. Nobody misses out. The most important thing is to know where we're going and to start to look at things from a completely different perspective, the perspective of we've already won and we can't lose, right? So hey, we went way longer than I thought we would, but so on Telegram, I have the 1000x more channel, and then there's the 1000x more community. So if you want to ask questions in there, that's good. But as you know, Tina's got the place to join the chat, and Tina or Michelle or one of you, can you put the SSS group in there too, the Telegram one? Do I not have to go look at it? Because that's us. Like, there's
just a minute. I'll put it back right there.
Yeah. There's only like 8 of us that meet every day to talk about this stuff. I think there's like 15 people in that other group, and there's not like on the 1000x more chat, you know, to interact with the news and stuff. I think there's like under 40 people there too. So you can ask questions. And
you didn't make it shareable. I can just add members, but I cannot share an invite.
Really? Is that because you're not an admin? Maybe? Did we not make you an admin?
Maybe, I don't know.
Oh dear. Okay.
Actually, look, it says I am an admin, but I don't.
I'm going to do this so you guys can save the chat, and then we'll end the call and go get dinner. So I just got to find my Telegram. Like, way too many things open.
And just to let you guys know, I don't know exactly what tonight is going to be announced. There is on Telegram, there is a channel called Q Team Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Where they share a lot of information that is relevant to us. And every Wednesday night around 6 o'clock, they have a live chat. And I will, they're about to start in about 2 minutes. So okay. Sometimes they have a lot of information. They drop a lot of truth bombs and a lot of very interesting stuff that you don't hear on the news, that's for sure. But when you hear it from them, because those are retired CSIS agents, retired RCMP veterans, and so on, and they still have connections, and they're able to impart some knowledge to us. So if you guys want to join, go right ahead. That's where I'm heading. Q Team Canada.
There you go. And the one that I just put there, t.me, and then that funny number. So to save the chat, you click the 3 dots in where you would send a message, and it says save chat. So you've got the links there. So, okay, Michelle's going to go to Q Team Canada. The rest of us maybe go have dinner. So I can't
All
hear
right.
you. Rosemary, did you have anything? Yeah. You guys, thank you. Yeah, okay, whatever. Thank you for coming. all the links for all of this stuff though is at sampiercy.com too. So there you go.
But
Okay.
you're saying Q Team Canada, Michelle?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
On Telegram. On Telegram.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. It was so good to see you.
It was good to see you too. Have a great evening. I can't hear you, Ted, but
It's very cool to hear all this stuff. It's very new to me. It's very
Yeah.
Very
interesting.
positive. What?
well, we can't. We're bouncing off the walls. It's like, okay, is it today? You know, like
Oh, I want to bounce off the walls, Sam.
okay,
I'm tired of this.
Yeah,
You know, it's been hard.
Yeah, well, follow. So get onto Telegram. You know, follow along on Telegram. That's where a lot of news gets shared. And I'll do these every week as long as people show up. And because I'm not saying that, you know, I was frustrated today, or I don't know, whatever. I was just irritated, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that I know what's coming. I think that's why I was irritated.
Because it's not today. Yeah, not yet. Yeah.
My $30 check held for 10 days, you know, like, I'm sorry, that's just garbage, right? But whatever. So it's all leaving. It's all very positive. So have a great evening, you guys.
You too.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.